Hey, is this thing on? Hello? Hit it again. I think it's on now. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, where each week, Doc will drag some colorful characters out of the woods to talk trail and Type 2 fun. If you're aspiring hiker trash, or if you're just looking to understand the hiker trash in your life, look no further. So lace up those boots, gnaw on some jerky, and settle into your 20-mile pace as we fire up the podcast from somewhere deep in the backcountry. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags, hiker trash, and of course, good smelling day hikers. I'm Doc, and this is Hiker Trash Radio. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't like what we're doing, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, we are in for a real treat this week as we get to spend some time with a very special guest. It is my pleasure to welcome to Hiker Trash Radio for the very first time, hopefully not the last time, river guide, humanitarian, TV host, writer, producer, mother, and one of the OG Survivor contestants, Kelly Wiglesworth. How's it going, Kelly?
Oh, it's great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
I'm stoked to have you here. I'm a huge Survivor fan. So typically on the podcast, we talk a lot of trail. We talk about through hiking. We talk about section hikings. But you know what? I always say that this podcast is about the adventure, the outdoor adventure tree. And there are many branches to the outdoor adventure tree. And Survivor certainly can be categorized as outdoor adventure.
Yeah, definitely. We did some hiking. That first one, there was definitely some hiking. So I can scratch that itch about some hiking if anybody needs to hear about walking through the Borneo jungle.
Nice. Now, where are you calling in from? You look like you're in a hotel room. You could be.
I'm an undisclosed location. I'm sequestered in a hotel room. Adventure to be determined.
You could be anywhere in the world right now.
I could be anywhere. This could be any hotel painting behind me, anywhere.
This could be somewhere close to Fiji. There could be a third return.
It could be.
Survivor. Who knows?
Never say never. Who knows? Never say never. I like to keep all doors open.
All right. Now, typically on the podcast, we go by trail names. Are you familiar with the trail name phenomena?
I am. Yeah. And I don't necessarily, I have a nick. So my last name's Wigglesworth, and there's really no getting around that. I've really never had any other nickname in my life. Neither has anyone in my family. You have that last name, you're born with a nickname. So it's been various Wiggles, Wigs, that type of thing. And I've heard all the, hey, are you worth your wiggles? And I've heard every comment you possibly could have. And I have a 9-year-old who he's in elementary school, and he's starting to be like, Mom, people are making fun of my last name. I'm like, yep, welcome to your life, kid. Like, it'll be cool. Like when you hit 6th grade. Right now, it sucks, but you'll live through it. But so I've never had anything other than a variation of Wiggles, except when I first started learning to surf. So apparently when I surf, and I still do it to this day, I laugh really loud whenever I catch a wave, and I have no idea that I'm doing it, like loud that people can hear me on the beach laughing. And so the first couple of times I actually got up and got on a wave, not just thrashed in the shore break. Like I got up, I was surfing, I was doing it. I came in on the beach, and all my friends were laughing so hard, and they were like, what were you doing? What was happening? What were you doing? I was like, I don't know. I was just surfing. And they're like, you were laughing so hard. Everyone could hear you on the beach. And so from that point on, Gigglesworth. It's not my trail name. It's my surf name. So it could be, it's like a trail name for the water. So Gigglesworth is the only other nickname I've ever had in my life.
Now, is there any problem with me referring to you in the podcast episode as Wiggles or Giggles?
Oh, please do. You can call me Wigs or Wiggles. I actually prefer that. It's weird when I hear people call me Kelly. Like the only people that call me that are like my mom when I'm in trouble. So, yeah, please do.
Okay.
Go for
all
it.
right. I love that. Wiggles is a great name. I mean, that'd be a great trail name. That's something that usually would have a fantastic, funny story behind it, but you were born with it.
I was born. I do have, if you want to get into, I have a Survivor tidbit for you. This has to do with the last name. Second chance, second time I did Survivor, we were at the finale party, and I still keep in touch with a lot of actually the people who worked on the show, production people I'm good friends with. And we're at the finale, and a couple of people came up to me and they were laughing and they said, and they were editors. So they said, do you have any idea? Because Jeff Probst is obsessed with my last name. He loves saying my last name. I don't remember.
I've heard him say Wigglesworth more than any other last name on the show.
He loves it. He says it all the time. And I don't remember the first time around if he said it a lot, but he's always referred to me as Wigglesworth. It's never been Kelly with him. But second time around, man, he was going for it. And so anyway, the editors are telling me, like, you have no idea how many times, like, we've had to hear your damn last name in the editing bay so much, because when they finish filming, they're like turning it around quick. They're cranking out an episode by the next week. So the editors work really hard. And they were like, we heard your last name so many times that they eventually turned it into a drinking game. So every time Jeff Probst said Wigglesworth, you had to drink. So that was really funny. That was new to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's a drinking game. So you can feel free to use that. Your listeners, Wigglesworth, it's a drinking game now. But then they really went for it at the party. Then it was like everyone's hanging out and everyone's Wigglesworth. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
All right, let's do that. Listeners, if you are going to watch the original season of Survivor, season 1, or if you do season 15 in Cambodia, play the drinking game, the Wigglesworth drinking game. Every time Probst says Wigglesworth, take a shot. Take a shot.
And let us know. I want to know how, because that was in the editing. I want to know how many made it to camera. So
I have a feeling some of our listeners, as they're watching, may end up on the floor by the end of the Survivor episode.
It's for research purposes.
That's right. So every time I say Wiggles, Giggles, or Wigglesworth, take a shot during this episode as well. So
somebody out there has to drink. It's going to be a good episode.
A great episode. Great episode. All right, Wiggles.
Yes.
Take a shot right now. Wiggles,
oh boy.
Again. Have you ever listened to the podcast before?
No, I haven't actually.
I love this. I love it when my guests have not listened to the podcast, because I share the episode outline. And so I think they have a pretty good idea of what's going to transpire, but they don't really understand what's going to happen. So I love to get the untamed first reactions to some of these segments.
I like that too. I feel like I do better when I'm not a planner. I'm an on the fly person, and I've never watched Survivor either, just so you know. That. Nope, never seen it.
Seriously?
One or the second one. I think I saw like a few minutes of the very, very first one, because my mom like had everybody over to the house. And it's funny because you're on a podcast, but I can't listen to myself like talk. I'm like, oh, that sounds weird. It's funny. And so I remember sitting watching, and 2 minutes in, I'm like, I can't watch this. I got to go outside. And so I never watched it. And then when we were at the finale, we all had to be together and watch. So I was there, but I kept leaving the room. Like I couldn't watch. So I've never seen it, and I've never seen the second one either.
So does this mean you're not going to listen to this episode of the podcast?
I'm going to listen to this episode. I'm totally going to listen to this episode.
And let me clarify. You have not watched season 1 or season 15. Have you watched any other seasons of Survivor?
No. It's actually, I think it's actually season 30 that I was on. It was 15 years later. You are right.
That's right. 15 years later. Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Because Jeff said that a lot too, which he blew my game on that. 15 years. I remember that in my last name a lot, but I think it was season 30 or 31.
You're absolutely correct. It was 15 years later, 15 years later. And I know that Survivor does two seasons a year, basically.
Yeah.
And so the numbers work out right there.
Yes.
All right. I asked if you'd listen to the podcast because I want to make sure that you are aware of a segment that we do towards the end of each episode called the hiking hack, which is a chance. I know you're not exactly a full-fledged hiker, but you have a lot of outdoor adventure experience. And so this is going to be an opportunity for you to share some adventure wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better.
Happy to. I would get into it later, but I actually just did a really big hike with my son in April.
Perfect. So you've got some trail wisdom.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Trailblazers Toolkit.
That's right, Kelly. It's time for the Trailblazers Toolkit, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. I love to talk about gear on the podcast, and I love to hear about the most important item in my guest adventure gear. So if I were preparing for your next adventure, if you were preparing for your next adventure and I was the one supplying you with your gear, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? Make sure all the specifics on that piece of gear. Tell me why you got to have it out there. And this could be any type of gear. It could be a luxury item. It could be apparel. So Kelly, what is that item in your toolkit?
My go-to never leave home without is my Sawyer water filter. I always have one with me. And even when I travel within the US, I've even given them to my family that live on the East Coast. My mom, who lives in Florida, hurricanes and everything, water filter, always. I always have one. My son always has one. So that's my go-to.
That is fantastic. And you have stumbled across some bonus points for our next segment because you mentioned one of Hiker Trash Radio's sponsors, Sawyer Products. They are a fantastic company. And anytime one of my guests mentions one of my sponsors, just as part of the conversation, you get extra points in the hiking poll. So congratulations on that.
Yay. Do we take a sip or what do we do?
Take a sip and we'll continue talking about gear with our next segment.
It's the hiking pole.
The hiking pole, and that's pole spelled with 2 L's, like a survey, not like the thing you carry out on the trail with you if you're hiking. I like to explain that to all my guests because I think I'm pretty clever with coming up with that concept. And everybody's reaction is pretty much the same as yours, just a blank stare.
Yeah. No, I'm smiling on the inside. I'm laughing on the inside.
Got it. I had a lot of that in high school too. People said, they weren't laughing at me, they were laughing near me.
Near you, with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Pointing in your direction.
So Wiggles, this is a 7-question survey that's going to help me give you a score on the sanity scale, with 1 being completely insane and 100 being completely sane. Now, any 2-time contestant on the television series Survivor, there's an automatic 30-point deduction. So your top.
I was going to say, should we just skip the quiz and give me a negative
score tonight is 70. That's right. Now, if I were to ask Rio, I said, Rio, where would you score your mom on the sanity scale? How sane is she? Would he score you higher, lower? What do you think?
He would score me pretty insane. I would be in the negative on that. He thinks I'm pretty cuckoo, but he's starting to get Survivor. I'm his mom. He thinks I can't get out of the house without remembering my car keys. He doesn't think I can do anything. So
what does he think about? Is he watched season 1 and season 30 or 31
No, he's never seen it. He's still trying to figure out what it is, like what really happened. He knows I did this thing and he knows about it, but it's not a big part of our life. Like we don't talk about it. And we don't not talk about it. It's just, but sometimes if we're somewhere and somebody like recognizes me, he gets all kind of, oh, like my mom's kind of cool. Like kids at school, like PTA stuff at school, parents are like, oh my gosh, that's her. And he's, oh, that's my mom.
That's Wigglesworth. That's Wigglesworth right there. Go get her autograph.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I totally forgot. So he was just in the Little League Championship and his team won, but the umpire stopped gameplay. I completely forgot about this. The umpire fully stopped the game when he came up to bat. And I was like filming out, like trying to get pictures. And I'm like, what's the umpire? He stopped. He went over and he started whispering to him. And then they kept playing. And I was like, what happened? And the umpire came up to me after the game and he was like, I had to ask him because I recognize the last name. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he fully stopped the Little League game. So that was funny. And of course, he didn't like it. My son didn't like it that time because he was like in the zone ready to bat. So he was not stoked that time.
He's going to get to an age where he appreciates that he is the son of a Survivor contestant.
I hope so. Or I'm going to make him build a fire in the backyard and sleep outside the house.
Nice. That's a great question. I should say for later. How has Survivor impacted your parenting skills? But we'll get to that.
That's a good one. Ooh, yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. So now I have onto the hiking pool. 7 questions. Yes. I have 3 sets of questions. Two sets of those questions are related to hiking, specifically to hiking. And You're telling me that you do have hiking experience.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay. So I should feel free to choose either one of them from those sets of questions.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to go with set C. With the questions. 7 questions. I'm going to give you a score on the sanity scale. This is not rapid fire.
Okay.
I'm going to find out which side of the fence you fall on, give me your answer, and then explain to me why, because that will help me with the calculation of your score.
Oh, okay. I can plead my case.
You can plead your case.
I like it.
Totally subjective. It's whether or not I agree with you, but I am open to persuasion. I can be persuaded. You
can be bribed and persuaded.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. So question number 1, when you're out on the trail, what are the top 3 topics of conversation on the trail for you?
What are the top 3? I don't know. We don't really talk a whole lot, to be honest. If we're on a really long hike, I think sometimes we play the name game. We play a lot of games where you think of a famous person and then the next person has to think of another famous person that their last name starts with the first letter. We did that a lot on Survivor because we had to hike like a couple of miles into the jungle. We actually hiked to Tribal Council. And in the dark, we did not have our torches the whole way. It was several miles, like to the other side of the island through the jungle. And so that's actually what we did. We played the name game so we could stay focused and stay on track and keep Rudy from falling like into the abyss. So I would say name games.
Okay. All right. That's 1.
Oh gosh.
Are there 2 other topics or is it just variations, 3 different variations of the name game?
Different variations of name games. I guess it just depends who you're hiking with, but I've done a lot of guiding. I've guided a lot of backpacking trips, a lot of down to the Havasupai, a lot of Grand Canyon trips and stuff. I think just asking people, what's your favorite trip, or what's just trying to keep people from focusing on like the fact that their pack's heavy or their feet hurt or something like that. So just trying to distract people. And I feel like if you get people talking about themselves, it tends to distract them a lot. Okay, that's 2. I guess another game, 2 Truths and a Lie, is another popular game because it helps to pass the time if you're on a really long hike, especially with kids. I've done a lot of guiding with kids, so that's helpful and it's fun, keeps them engaged. Okay,
side trip already. We're going to depart from the hiking pole just for a second. Tell me 2 truths and a lie about Wiggles.
Oh, dang it. I set myself up for that one.
I will try and pick out the lie.
Okay. I have traveled to 33 countries. I am an certified advanced technical scuba diver. And there's so many things. I can speak 3 languages.
All right. 33 countries. That's highly specific. That just rolled off your tongue. I think that's a truth. You came up with scuba pretty quickly as well, but you really struggled for that 3rd item. I think you were struggling to pick out something untrue. I think what we see with you is what we get. You're very transparent. You're very honest. And so you took a little more time than usual to come up with that 3rd item. So I'm going to say that 3rd item is the lie.
Ew, you're wrong.
I'm wrong. You're not a scuba diver?
I am. It's partial. See, I have to, there's always some truth because I can't just like fully outright lie. I suck at it. So I am a scuba diver. I am an advanced diver. And I was in the process of getting my technical dive, but I never fully, it didn't happen. I never finished it.
So that's the lie. That's the lie. Got it. But you speak 3 languages. Which 3?
I do. I speak
English.
Spanish.
Is English one of them?
English is not one of them. I hate it when people.
Okay.
That doesn't count. I can barely speak English. Spanish, sign language, and I'm pretty good at Portuguese. I'm getting better. But once
that's 4 languages.
Well, English doesn't count.
You're speaking it very well. I would count it.
Am I speaking it? I count English. Okay, that's 4. But I do love language. I want to be able to speak more. That's my superpower. That was another trail game. Sorry, can I throw that one in? There's the superpower game.
Yeah.
Do everybody play that one? If you could have one superpower or pick 3.
Okay. You know what? This is good. I'm going to pull a question off of set B because you've mentioned this. I'm going to do a replacement for one of the set C questions. What is the better superpower? invisibility, or flying?
I would say flying. I'm not sure why you would need to be invisible. It sounds cool, but practically, why would you need to be? Because if a bear or something was coming at you, you could just fly and then you could be somewhere cool. And if you were hot, we're going to go with flying.
Okay. I think that's a good answer. I think it's a big red flag if someone says invisibility. It seems to me they have nefarious purposes for being.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those people.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Small hands, small cabbage. You definitely want to watch out for them.
All right. Question number 3. Toilet paper, bidet, leaves, or snow?
No.
Snow.
Yeah.
That's a real pick me up in the morning.
Yeah, I know. It's refreshing. I mean, snow. Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm a former.
Itself. I don't need to elaborate on that.
I utilize good wait time just to see what comes up.
Okay.
Question number 4: breakfast in camp, on trail, or no breakfast?
I'm not. Coffee in the morning and then get going. Breakfast on trail, especially if it's hot. If it's hot and you got to cover miles, I don't want to do a whole big food thing. Trail for sure. Coffee though. Coffee is key.
Hot or cold?
Hot. Always hot. Yeah. Can't do cold coffee.
You carry a stove out there with you?
Yeah, a little guy stove. Or if it's super hot outside, just use hot water. Ooh, I do have a cool hack though. Remind me to tell you my Eco Challenge Fiji hack.
Okay. We're going to talk about Eco Challenge, so we'll bring that up when we get there. Got it.
Okay.
Got it. All right. Question number 5: solo hiking or trammeling? And this is generally designed for a through hiker who's out there for weeks and months at a time. Are they doing it alone, or do they partner up with people that they encounter on the trail? If you were in that situation, where do you think you'd fall?
Can I say both? Can I go D, all of the above, like a little bit of both, like some solo time and then some with people, like meet up and hike for a little bit?
Yeah, Wiggles, there are 2 types of people. There are the people that pick from one of the answers I give, and there are people that come up with their own answer.
I'm one of those.
I see where you fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I give it away? Was it a telltale sign?
Now, why some of both?
Because I love alone time. I like to hang out and be alone, but I also love people. And I think it's cool to have a little bit of both. And especially traveling, I think it's really important, at least for me, to have that alone experience, because you have such a different experience. And with your other people, they can determine the experience you have. And if you're like, yeah, cool, let's do what you want to do, or that type of thing. That's always been my deal when traveling. Like, I love traveling solo, but it's fun to meet up with people for a little bit. And I'm like, all right, cool. Catch you at the next spot.
Okay. Question number 6: rank the following in your order of preference: 1 mile severe uphill, 1 mile severe downhill, or 20-mile road walk.
1 mile severe uphill
Is top choice?
Top choice. I guess uphill, downhill, road walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am in total agreement.
You are?
I am. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You're one of the few to agree with me on that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Question number 7: when you're out there, what's on your head? Ball cap, floppy hat, straw hat, sun hoodie, or no hat? Or something off of the list that you might be prone to pick?
Okay. I see. I like it. You let me go off list. Baseball hat. Pretty solid baseball hat. The big floppy hat thing I don't know. It's too big. It's too cumbersome. Floppy hat, maybe a bandana, and maybe like a sun shirt over the hat, but I'm a pretty standard baseball hat.
You could have said survivor buff.
I could have said, but I never wore those on my head. No, I never wore that on my head. Neck.
What's on your ball cap?
Oh, you want to see my hat? It's rad.
Sure.
Right here.
Yeah. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify right now, hit pause and go over to YouTube and let's take a look at her ball cap.
So can you see it?
I can. Boaters only.
So this is from a company called River Company Outfitters.
Okay.
And they just sent me this not too long ago, and I love it. It's my new favorite hat. So I wear this.
Shameless plug for River.
No, but it's a great hat. River Company Outfitters. Yeah, they make cool stuff. But I love this hat.
Now, As a former Survivor contestant, do you get sent stuff a lot?
I I did for a while and then it faded. I ran away to Mexico for 10 years and I hid out there for a while and I had no phone and no internet and no TV and stuff. And I was not on social media at all. So people couldn't really find me. So yeah, people send me cool stuff and I try to return the favor. I try to really put other people's stuff out there, especially if they're going to send me cool stuff. But I'm not a sellout. You don't send me a bunch of random stuff that, I don't like. I'm not going to, ooh, this is awesome. No, I'm not. Not one of those people.
I'm gonna send you some Hiker Trash Radio merch.
Sweet. Thank you. I'm excited about that.
And I want to talk about your Mexico experience and the reasons behind why you did that, but we'll get to that later in the episode. Okay. Right now, I've got to do some math. I've got to take your answers. I got to run them through the Hiker Trash Radio algorithm. I was a former English teacher, so this is really complicated for me. I've got to take off my shoes, use all 20 digits.
Okay. Get the abacus out.
That's right. That's right. I slide the beads across. I got to carry the 2. I'm going to multiply by √5, and I'm going to divide by pi. And I'm going to make a slight adjustment for the temperature of the snow that you're using for toilet paper early in the morning.
Okay.
And I come up with a score of 47.
Oh, 47.
47, just south of Seine.
Okay. That's not as bad as I thought.
It could have been worse. And let me tell you, as we go through the episode here, that score can change. As I learned.
Okay, I was going to say, this is a sliding. Yeah. We're grading on a curve here, I think.
That's right. Now, Wiggles, take another shot out there if you're listening.
Go for it.
Before we get too far down the trail, let's back up a little bit. I'd love to hear about your background and where you grew up. What kinds of sports were you involved in as a kid? And how in the world did someone who seems to shy away from the attention, you seem, just from the limited time I've known you, how did you end up on Survivor?
That is a really good question. So the shy away from it. If you ask my mother, she'll tell you the exact opposite. Apparently, I was just the attention hog as a child. She was if people weren't paying attention to you, you literally stood on a table and yelled or sang a song and made everybody pay attention to you. I have a big family.
That's what I do. That's what I do now at Family Guy.
I still do that. Yeah, I do. I have a big family and lots of brothers and sisters, and I was the youngest. And I laugh with my sisters that, just because you grew up with a bunch of girls, means we weren't playing dolls and brushing each other's hair. We were outside, we were in the mud, we were playing in the woods and all of that. And I was the youngest, so they would throw me down the laundry chute and tell me it was a slide and that type of stuff.
The youngest has it tough in big families.
Does have it tough because you're always trying to impress everybody. And you'll do whatever they say. So I'm and I thought about this the other day. I was I wonder if I am the way I am because that's just how I was born, or is it because you guys freaking made me do everything? Even going up and talking to people, you had to do everything. So I've always been a very outgoing person. And I guess how the whole Survivor thing happened was I was going to school in Las Vegas at UNLV, and I worked for the outdoor rec program for the school. And so we did a lot of trips throughout the year. And that's when I was doing a lot of backpacking, and we'd backpacking and horseback riding and canoe trips and a lot of day hikes and stuff like that. And we did 2 weeks on the Kern River at the end of the school year. I had been rafting as a kid with family as a paddler, but I had no idea how to guide a raft. So I got hired to work for the school outdoor rec program. And the first year I was there was El Nino year, super high water. And we had partnered with the Las Vegas Adaptive Recreation Program. So we had people that were paraplegic. We had people that were on various scales of autism. We had blind people. We had a couple people that had MS. And so we were bringing these people rafting, and they were oh, you have experience. Here you go. Here's your raft. And I'm I have no idea how to guide the boat. And we had lawn chairs strapped into the raft and people sitting in the boat. I had this sweetheart of a woman, Debbie, who was a paraplegic but a rock climber. She was in the middle of the raft. Her blind boyfriend was my front left bow paddler. And then I had 2 guys with MS in the boat with me. And they're all right, go downriver. We did fine, thankfully. But after that, I was like, I'm going to go to guide school. So I went to guide school, like learned how to do the things. And I really loved it, really enjoyed it. And so my first year working as a commercial guide, somebody I knew from another company had got a private Grand Canyon trip. And that at the time, there was like 11-year wait list to go private down the Grand Canyon. And I was getting ready to pack it up for the summer and head back to Las Vegas to go to school. I was working on the Kern River and I was a first year guide. I hadn't really rowed a boat that much. I had just was paddle guiding. And of course, everybody's like trying to get invited on this trip. And I just had it in my head that I was going on this Grand Canyon trip that everybody wanted to go on. And people were like, you're not getting invited. You're a first year guide. No one's going to invite you. And I was like, nope. I'm getting invited. And I happened to be at the guide house, which I didn't live at the guide house, and the phone rang and I answered the phone and this guy was on the other end and he was like, hey, I'm looking for Wiggles. And I was like, yep, right here. He's like, hey, do you want to row a gearboat on our canyon trip? And I was like, yep, going on the canyon. So I dropped out of school because it was in October. It was 21 days in October. And of course I can't miss 21 days of school. And so I gave up my apartment, quit my job, dropped out of school. My mom was super stoked to go on the Grand Canyon with 15 other people who I knew fairly well, but not, they all worked for different river companies and stuff like that. Yeah, 21 days in the Grand Canyon with 15 other people and you're there, you're doing it. There's no let me off at the next stop, I hate all of you kind of thing. And when I got home from the Grand Canyon, I was sleeping on the couch at my mom's house in Las Vegas. And I think it was the third morning that I was there. And my hands are bloody. Like I'm still crusty from coming out of the Grand Canyon and I'm like not caught up on sleep, literally 3 days. And my mom comes home with this piece of paper it was from the CBS website, because she would go onto the CBS website and get her news every morning. And she came home and I remember she woke me up on the couch and handed me this paper. And it was like a little cartoon drawing of an island, like a little clump of dirt with a palm tree and a dude sleeping under the island. And it said CBS at the top. And it said 16 people, Borneo, 39 days, $1 million survive. And that's all it said. And she was like, you should do this. And I was like, what is this? And she said, well, you pretty much just did this on the Grand Canyon, 16 people for 21 days. She was like, you should do this and get $1 million or get the hell off my couch. What are you doing? Go to school, get a job. You know what I mean? You got to be doing something. So I saw this thing and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I should totally do this. And so I sent in a tape and filled out the thing and off you go. But the funny thing about my audition was I think it was due like right around Thanksgiving or something. And you had to film something. And at that time, I didn't have a phone. And if I did have a phone, I don't think phones, this was 2000. I don't think phones had camera. Like everybody has a camera now, the GoPro, like I didn't have a camera. So my dad called some old friend and got like a beta, like a big ass camera. And my sister was trying to figure out how to work this thing. And the applications like, be creative, be spontaneous and all this stuff. And so we were trying to figure out what to film. And every time I did anything, I was like, that is stupid. Like that, I feel like I'm acting. That's lame. And so I was like, no, erase that. And I was just like, forget it. This is dumb. I can't like act. And finally it was due. I had to have it in the FedEx box by midnight and it was 11 o'clock at night. And my sister just shoved the camera in my face and she was like, dude, just say, because they had a checklist, say your name, where you're from, why we should pick you. And I think she and I were sitting in her living room, like drinking beer or something. And I was like over it at this point, because I just couldn't think of something amazing to do. So she just shoved the camera in my face and was like, dude, just do something, say something. And I was like, all right, this is my name. This is where I'm from. And pick me or not. I don't really care, but I'm born for this. Like I've been doing this my whole life. And all right, cool. Box it, ship it, send it. And then the application, you had to answer all these questions. And so put it in the mail. It was like 11:58 when I got it in the FedEx box. And I was like, it's not even going to count. So I happened to be in North Carolina when I sent this in, and then I left the next day and drove back to California. I get to California and my mom's calling me, freaking out because I had no cell phone. So I had to give like my mom as the contact. And she's, CBS has been calling for 2 days now. They can't, like, they really want to talk to you. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I get this chick's phone number and I call her and she's freaking out. She's, oh my gosh, we love you. Was that really you on the audition? They're like freaking out about this like amazing audition tape that I sent in. And I'm going, what the hell? Like, you guys must be really like hard. So apparently I had this amazing audition tape that I'm going, it was me like petting my dog, drinking beer in the living room. And so this whole time
it was authentic. That's what it was. It was authentic.
That's part of it. But here's the second layer of this. So I didn't find out till the finale. Actually, Bryant Gumbel was hosting it and he brought up about my audition. And he said that according to Mark Burnett, I had the most interesting audition tape of the however 20,000 people who applied or whatever. So remember the part where I said I was filming all this dumb stuff and my sister was supposed to erase it? She didn't know how to work the camera. So none of it got erased. And I can't even tell you what was on there, but it was bad. It was dumb. It was probably really inappropriate. The casting, Mark Burnett gets a hold of this thing and it's like me being really freaking stupid, or I don't even know, for a couple of seconds, and then it would go fuzzy and then another thing and then fuzzy. And there was probably, he said there was like 20 or something outtakes of me. And he was like, oh my God, this girl, like we have to have her. And I had no idea the whole time. I'm thinking it's just like me drinking beer.
This was the most creative submission ever with these outtakes and the way it was formatted. And it was totally accidental.
It was complete Forrest Gump. Like I Forrest Gumped the hell out of my way onto Survivor. I have no idea. And that was a long story, but it all fit together. But yeah, so apparently that's how I got on. And then the other thing that Mark told me was, so one of the questions on the application that they asked was, I'm going to ask you, can I ask you this? I got a question for you.
Okay.
So original Survivor application, one of the questions was, if you were a character on Gilligan's Island, who would you be and why? So I'm going to see who you picked. And then I want you to guess who I picked.
I would totally pick Gilligan.
Okay. Why would you Gilligan?
It doesn't come across in the podcast. Sense of adventure, loosey-goosey, not necessarily planning stuff out, living in the moment. I think that's kind of Gilligan. I see some parallels there with me in some aspects of my personality.
Gilligan.
I'm going to guess that you went with Marianne.
No, but that's a good guess. But so I'm feeling you on Gilligan for you because I feel like, because Gilligan, he keeps everybody happy and joking. I could see you like keeping the team morale up, like you're going to be like positive and make everybody like not stress out about it. No. Okay. Do you want me to tell you or do you want to guess one more time? Or do you want 3 guesses?
3 guesses. There's only 7 characters, right?
I know. So you
really bad. I can't get it in 3.
Okay.
Are you the skipper?
No.
The professor.
The professor.
The professor. Okay.
Yes. So apparently I was the only female to not pick a female. Of all the females that applied, I was the only one who said a male and the professor, because I was like, I wouldn't be. And I guess he said nobody was like, I had to pick Marianne or Ginger or Mrs. Howell, but it said it didn't say you had to pick the same gender. So apparently that was it. Cause I'm like, dude, I'm going to be making a radio out of coconuts or building a satellite out of a palm tree or something. I'm not going to be sitting there brushing my hair on the island. So that apparently was a standout. So there you go. So that's how
the younger demographic of our listeners they're scratching their heads right now saying, what is a Gilligan's
Island? Oh God.
They're missing out.
They have to watch it.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right.
At that point in time, that was the only reference. Like there were no reality shows. So that was like all they had to go off of.
That's right. Hey, Wiggles, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how you're paying the bills these days. I want to get to that remote surf village in Mexico. Of course, we're going to talk about some Survivor and also some of the other adventures you've been involved in. But we're going to hear from the advertisers first. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to come back and talk about all that good stuff. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay.
And welcome back. We are talking to Kelly Wiglesworth, OG Survivor contestant. We just went through a rollicking good time in that first segment. We're going to get into some real nitty-gritty Survivor talk and some other exciting things here in just a minute. But I want to go back to something you said in the first segment, and that is that after Survivor, you lived in a remote surf village in Mexico for 10 years. Why did you do that? Were you trying to get out of the spotlight since you had been in it?
It was, I had a really good run post Survivor. I was working for the E! Channel. I was hosting an adventure travel show for them called Celebrity Adventures. That was really awesome. I got to take celebrities on these crazy adventures all over the world and travel and do lots and lots of fun stuff. So it wasn't really a premeditated thing. I really enjoyed that portion of it. And I really was passionate about trying to find a way to merge kind of Hollywood and media with cool purpose. And that's still a big thing I'm working on right now. But I ended up getting my certification to be a yoga teacher. And I had a yoga school where I was training and certifying people to be yoga teachers. And I had a group of women that hired me and another woman they wanted their own private yoga and surf retreat. So I was living on the central coast of California where I had my school and my own studio. And we had planned this whole trip down to a little town called Rio Nexpa, which is in the state of Michoacan on the Pacific coast of Mexico. And we were supposed to go down there for 2 weeks and host this surf thing. About a week before the trip, all but one lady canceled on us, which was really weird because they had hired us to put this thing on. And I had already closed my studio and taken time off work and bought the plane tickets. And me and my friend who was hosting it with me, we were like, all right, let's just reschedule. And then no, let's just take a surf trip. Let's just do a girls' surf trip. Let's just go. So we went down there to surf, and lo and behold, it's like huge. It's the biggest time of year ever there, which we hadn't really fully thought that out because her brother had gone there and surfed a ton. And he said, oh, it's perfect. It's great for beginners. And we had people who had literally never stepped a toe on a surfboard before. So we get down there and it's like easily 20 feet. It's huge. I'm terrified. And I had been surfing a bit, like I was doing pretty well, but scared the crap out of me. And I was like, thank God we didn't actually bring any guests down here because there's no way we wouldn't have been able to surf. So I was supposed to be down there for 2 weeks, and I ended up meeting a woman who lived down there who wanted to get her yoga certification. So I stayed, and I just ended up staying there. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and I stayed for 10 years. I really liked it there and made a life down there. So it wasn't so much, oh, I got to get away and hide. I just fell in love with the place and decided I wanted to make a life there. And my family always jokes, they're like, you never left the jungle. And I was like, no, not really. I really liked it. It certainly had its challenges, no doubt. But
Kelly, I'm gonna draw a parallel here to the thru hiking world, in that people, they fall in love with hiking, and they graduate from day hikes to maybe a week-long hike to all of a sudden walking from Mexico to Canada on either the PCT or the CDT. And I think part of the attraction, which here's the parallel to the remote surfing village in Mexico, part of the attraction is the simplicity of life. It's uncomplicated. There is a singularity of focus. You're getting up and you're going to the next campsite. I imagine that had to be very similar in that remote surfing village.
oh yeah, you get up, and it was like 93 seconds from my front door to paddling out. I had banana trees and papaya trees, and we would go fishing and catch our food. And there was no TV, there was no phone. Go surf, come back in, have some breakfast, hang out, do some yard work, go fishing, go for a run, go hike a waterfall, get some food, and super simple. And then hang out and watch the sunset. And it was, like I said, it was a lot of work, but it was a very pure and lovely existence. And it was uncomplicated. And I really liked that. You'd go to the store in town and it's, oh, I need to get a new pair of shoes. Here's 2 flip-flops, pick one. and it's so uncomplicated. And I actually grew up in Las Vegas. We moved to Las Vegas when I was 7, and people are always like shocked to hear that. And I don't know. I think it could go either way. I guess growing up, you always want what you don't have. And maybe growing up in such a big, loud, like everything city, it was like all I could do to want to get the hell out of there as fast as I can. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just how I am. I know plenty of people who grew up there who love the city and love civilization. And I just like, I can't, I feel if I don't get out and do stuff, like in my head, I'm like, I'm a tiger walking back and forth. Like I can't be caged up for too long.
All right. And then you told us a story of how you landed on Survivor. Let's get to some Survivor talk.
Oh boy.
On Survivor Borneo, season 1, and then you ended up on Cambodia 15 years later. How was that first season? You were a trailblazer. You and the rest of the group, the other 15 contestants, something that had never, ever been done before. This was the birth of reality TV. You're out there. How did what showed up on, I know you didn't watch a whole lot, but how did what show up on the television differ from what actually happened out there? Any sense of that?
Yeah. One episode is 72 hours of filming. And that first one, like we didn't know what we were doing, and production didn't know what they were doing. Jeff Probst didn't know what he was doing. We were all just trying to figure it out. And so there was a lot of like, now there's do the game, and then there's other people really doing the game. So we don't have to film it over and over again. And people were like, were you really? Yeah, we really were. Like, we really had to hike miles in the jungle to get to tribal council. There was no car driving us around. There was no boat. We really had to go and do that. We really had to go hike into the jungle and get water. There was no food behind the camera. We really had to go catch food. We really had to build stuff. We really had to make fire. That all really happened. And it was really awesome, but it also really sucked a lot of times. And my motivation for doing it, yeah, they were making a TV show. We knew that. But here's the thing. The contract, it says, I still have the contract, that, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to film it. You guys are really going to do it, but it may never see the light of day but here's the thing. Everybody gets paid something depending on how long you're there. You first voted off gets $1,000 or however it's scaled. But they said, we're there 39 days. You guys are doing this. We're filming it, but all 13 episodes must air or nobody gets anything. So we knew that going in. And like I said, yeah, you're filming a TV show, but it was like, no one's going to watch this. Like, this is probably never going to see the light of day. And day 1, day 2, you're like, oh yeah, there's a camera, but that's out the window. You could care less that a camera's there. You're really having to focus and like really having to survive. So and I feel like now that's really changed. Like, people's everyone knows it's a TV show. I feel like people have a different motivation for going, so to speak. I just wanted to know if I could do it. I just wanted to know, like I said, I had been a guide. I had done all the things. I had my tent. I had my water filter. I had my little stove. I had my sleeping bag. I was like, you don't have anything. Can I do this? Can I freaking do 39 days of nothing? That's badass. I want to know if I can do that.
Yeah. And that's another parallel I can draw immediately with a lot of the endurance athletes I talk to and long distance thru hikers. They're looking for the limits of their capabilities. They're looking for the edge. And I get the same sense that was your quest out there as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if I could do it. And there was no like, oh, there wasn't social media when we did it. There was no like dangle a carrot of, oh, fame, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z out of it. No, you're going to be alive, hopefully, at the end of this.
Wiggles, what was tougher, the mental part of the game or the physical part of the game?
Oh, mental 1,000 times over. Because again, I had that little piece of paper with the dude on the island to go off of, and we knew we were going to be in Borneo, but we had no idea where. And we didn't even know, like when we jumped ship, they were like, okay, here's a machete and here's a canteen. We didn't know we were going to have anything like at all. So I was reading, I had some family members who were in the military. And so they were coaching me on survival stuff. And I was reading books about Borneo botany. And what I really found useful is I started studying tribes of Borneo and like how they made their shelters and what they did. And so I was definitely prepared for that. And physically, now I've heard when I went back for the second time, so I was like, oh, I tried to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I was like I tried to gain 40 pounds before I went. Like I was heavier than I'd ever been in my life when I stepped foot on that island, because I'm like, shit, we're not going to I'm not trying to look good in a bikini.
That's awesome, Wiggles.
I'm like brushing my teeth with bacon so I could
I talked to a guy who was on Naked and Afraid. He was a very fun guest to talk to, because he was torn about how heavy he should go in. He's, if I go in heavy, I mean, that helps me last longer. I just, live off of what I've got on me if I have to. But on the other hand, I'm going to be naked on TV.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do I do? What do I do? And so your plan was going heavy.
Oh, I went heavy. I went heavy. I didn't give a crap what I looked like, because that, like I said, we didn't think, none of us thought it was really going to air. To be honest, none of us thought this was ever going to see the light of day of TV. And like I said, after day 2, you don't give a shit. Can I swear? Like
you can. If it requires swearing, you can swear.
Okay. Yeah. You don't give a shit. After day 2, you could care less if there's a camera. Like you don't care. And I'm surprised you haven't asked me about going to the bathroom.
Well, we're getting there. Oh,
all right. I was like, dude, that's the number one question is the whole bathroom scene. But yeah, no, you don't care. You don't care about what you look like. And there's no mirrors anyways.
It seems to me that over the years, Survivor, the actual production of Survivor has changed. I don't have firsthand knowledge of this. I only have a sense from what I see and what they focus on the show. And I think that in the early years, especially season 1, there was a big thing on food or lack thereof. There was more kind of discussion about bathroom and bathroom habits and bathroom situations. I don't see that anymore. I don't see a whole lot of, I know they say occasionally that they're hungry. They do the food rewards and.
Oh God, there's so much food now. It's ridiculous. Food was rotting second time around.
Yeah. And so it really seemed there was more scarcity, more hardship early on in Survivor as they were figuring it out. And that honestly, when I got involved in watching this, that was some of the appeal. You guys were suffering out there. Yeah. And
we were suffering.
I don't know what it is about my personality or the personality of the people tuning in.
We love the suffering.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And that's the thing, obviously, with your listeners and everything, like conflict reveals true character. And I have a whole thing to say about that. They had told us, and this is where production, they want you to suffer. They're trying to manipulate you because they want to see the real you. And that was honestly part of the audition process going into Survivor. So you made it past the application in the video, and then you get to the next level. And then the final application or the final process before you're actually picked for Survivor, they sequester you in a hotel in LA for a week. And you have to go through all these psych tests and everything. But one of the things they would do is you have to stay in your hotel room, and they're like, all right, we're going to come get you at 10 o'clock at night for your interview. And you're sitting there waiting, and they never call you. They never come. So you're like, all right, I'm going to go to sleep. And then they bust in your room at 2 o'clock in the morning with a camera in your face because they want to know how you're going to be. So they would do that on the first one. And again, I think part of it is like, they didn't know what the hell they were doing, like trying to figure it out, but they would be like, all right, you have a game. You have immunity challenge today. Sometime when they would come to get you, if you're not there, if you're off in the woods gathering firewood, like you forfeit. And they had told us, because where they put us, like this was also the funny thing that I read, quote unquote, Borneo is the most inhospitable jungle in the world with the most amount of everything that will kill you. Plants, insects, animals, a freaking flower that like spits poisonous venom, and like everything will kill you in Borneo. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Don't even let it hear you talking, because the plants, seriously, this plant has a thing. It'll send out a thing to the other plant, and this plant will shoot a poisonous dart in your eye. Like snakes, the most poisonous snakes in the world, the banded crate, which is aggressive. PS, by the way, it will chase you in the jungle. The banded sea crate is the most dangerous snake in the world. And by the way, they're mating that time of year. Snake Island, they're mating right there at the time when we're there. So it was like, everything will kill you.
See, it was tougher back then. It was tougher. It was designed to be tougher.
That
is scary stuff right there.
Oh my gosh. And with the island where they put us, it was like, there was nothing to survive off of, because like I said, every plant will kill you. And there was some wild boar and monitor lizard and stuff and snakes, but like you couldn't kill them because it was part of a nature preserve. Right. So we couldn't even kill the animals that were there. And the fish in the ocean, like PS, that area of the South China Sea has been like overfished and bombed, and like the corals bleached. So there's no flipping fish. Yeah. So we didn't have anything to survive on but some sugarcane and tapioca root, which we depleted very early off. So they had said, we're going to give you guys unlimited rice. That was what they said. That was part of the deal, because otherwise we were going to starve to death. So they told us unlimited rice, right? Remember that. Remember the part where I said 3 times, they told us unlimited rice. So we get this giant bag of rice. It took us 3 days to make fire. PS, you don't just rub 2 sticks together and you get fire. When you're 7 degrees north of the equator and everything's soaking wet, it does not happen that quick. We didn't have matches. Use the magnifying glass, dude, that doesn't work. Like BB on the other team, he cheated. PS, by the way, he had fake glass. I'm sure everyone knows this now, but his glasses were not real glasses. They were like 7 million magnifying glasses that he had somebody make. So that's how they got fire.
Wiggles, you're not bitter about that. I can tell.
Oh, I'm not bitter at all. I just, because everyone, you look at these YouTube videos and homies like, it's easy and you rub 2 sticks and you blow and there's fire.
And by the way, if they're still doing the psych tests, they're not doing very well on them, because
I know
we failed. Really, really wild characters out there.
I passed the psych test barely passed the psych test. So we finally get fire, right? It takes us 3 days to get fire. And it was me and a couple other people, who knows, it was late at night and we finally get fire. And I'm like, yes, we're making rice. So we were cooking the hell out of that rice all day long, rice. And then, by the way, Jeff comes up and you guys know this is all you get, right? 3 days in, we're cooking rice, all like 24-hour rice on the pot. And you guys know this is all you get. And we're like, no, homie, you said unlimited. No, I never said that. Never said that. 10-pound bag of rice, we're down to 3 pounds. And he's, nope, sorry, you guys don't get any more. No more rice. We were on like the hardest ration ever of rice because we weren't getting any more. So it was like a 1/4 cup of rice a day split between 8 people. And I
remember people wasted away on that show.
Oh, we were bad. We were bad. Like and it's so funny because I remember reading like somewhere later in like People magazine, it was like, we went on strike. We seriously, and they were like, Wiggles led the charge. And I'm like, maybe I did. I don't know. I just remember all of us were wasting away and we were like, because they would want us to go do ropes courses and all this stuff. And we're like, we can't move. We literally could not move. And it, like I said, they would tell you, okay, you're going to have a challenge today at some point. Like we didn't have a clock. We had a sundial. And so you would have to do math, talk about math. You'd have to be like, okay, if I go look for coconuts and I don't find any and I have to go run up and down a hill later to like not get voted off this thing. I got to do calorie math. Oh wait, no, I can't go look for coconuts because I'm going to die if I run up this hill. So you seriously, and that was funny because day 39, Mark Burnett and the guy who created it, this Charlie, he was there. He was there on the island because it had been Robinson Crusoe Island for a couple of years before Mark made it Survivor. And it was like, they're like, so for next time, it was like a full after the fact, like questionnaire. Let me fill this out, 20 questions. What would you do differently? And we were like, oh, for God's sakes, food. Like you have to give these people more food or like people are going to die. People are not going to make it. You got to give more food. That was all we said was food. So thankfully there's a lot more food, but like circling back psychologically, that was the hardest thing because we knew somebody was going to get voted off, but we weren't really sure, like, how is this going to go down? Okay, every 3 days, someone's got to go. But There was no premeditated alliance, or that all just ended up happening. But it was
Yeah.
really like, okay, somebody's going to fall, or it's going to be so hard. I just thought it's going to logically work itself out. Like Sonia or the old people, for that kind of thing. So the psychological was really hard for me. That was certainly the hardest. And people are like, what was it like psychologically? And I imagine like the worst high school clique you could think of, and go camp out with them and try to hang out with them for 30 days in the jungle. That's it.
Yeah, the game certainly has evolved. There are now proven strategies. There are players going on the game now who they've created the puzzles, the challenges. They got them in their backyards. They're practicing them. They're going in. They're solving these puzzles in record speed because they've done it 1,000 times in preparation for going on the game. You had none of that. You're figuring it out for the very first time. You're the guinea pigs. You're the test dummies. You're out there doing it. But I understand that you, Wiggles, you organized the first blindside in Survivor history.
No, I didn't organize that at all.
I read that.
No, that is not true. No, that is totally not true. That is not true. No, that actually still haunts me to this day. You're talking about Gretchen.
Yes.
I know you're talking about Gretchen. No, I didn't organize shit. That was Richard 1,000%. You did that on purpose. I didn't do that. I did not do that. No, I went along with it because that was the thing to do. And that broke my heart. Like to this day, I'm ashamed that I did that. But that was the turning point for me. That was when you know what I did do? I'm the first person to ever say ever on television, I didn't come here to make friends. Boom. There you go. That was me. I said that first, but that was the turning point for me, because I was like, I'm doing the game and I'll do whatever it takes kind of thing. And I didn't come here to make friends, and I'm going to get through this. And Gretchen is the solid human. Gretchen is rad. I loved her to death, and she was great. And that's when it changed, because I fully voted her off, and I felt a horrible person. And that's when I went back to Cam that night, and I was like, this sucks. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I don't want to like hide behind some freaking alliance. And if I'm going to make it through this thing, I'm going to do it because I can do it, and because I'm strong, and because I'm going to make it. And I did. I eventually fessed up, and I was like, I'm sorry. That sucked. And I apologized to Gretchen, and she was like, dude, no, do what you got to do. No hard feelings kind of thing. But that was a huge moment for me where I was like, nope, I'm not doing it this way.
Now, Kelly, there on thru hikes, there are no porta potties out there. Occasionally you'll run into a pit toilet, but I'm imagining there's probably a lot of porta potties out on Survivor, right? That's what you're
No, there's no porta potties at all. The first one, when we jumped ship, we could grab whatever we could grab. And so we ended up grabbing a bunch of like wooden boxes for whatever reason. And it was funny because Richard kept trying to cut them loose, and Rudy kept swimming back and dragging them. We actually did have these wooden boxes that we cut out a lid and dug a hole, and that was our porta potty. And then we moved it however many couple of days. But yeah, you just dig a hole and you go, or you go in the ocean. That was actually encouraged to go in the ocean, so the smell wouldn't bring the animals. And at night you didn't want to go into the jungle at all. It was super unsafe, so you would go into the ocean. But as I mentioned, the snakes were mating at that time of year, so you would go to the water, and it was like Indiana Jones movie. What was it? Ark? Was it the Ark where the snakes?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It was like that times a million. Like you couldn't even see, because the snakes would be like all on the sand, like flopping around and mating. So
horrifying.
Take your pick, jungle or snakes.
Yeah. Yikes. All right. Now it got pretty heated there at the end. I remember the final tribal council, some harsh words were spoken at that tribal council. Sue Hawk went off.
She did. I knew she was going to. And I don't know if this made camera or whatever, but that whole day when Richard and I were burning the house down, I was like, it's fine. She's going to all of a sudden 39 days like compose herself for TV. I'm like, no, she is not. That woman is mad. She hates me. She is mad because she and I had a deal early on. Oh yeah, me and you girl power. And then she was ratting me out to Richard. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to let you get any further. And I knew she was going to have venom for me. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit there and take it. But that was another big moment. So you talk about like the psychological game. And when people ask me like, what's it really getting all the way to the end and that, and did you ever see that movie, The Never-Ending Story?
Yes.
Do you remember he has to go through all the challenges? And I feel like your listeners can really relate to this because you're hiking for a long time. And like, how are you going to push through? Like, and what's your reason for pushing through? What's your reason for finding your edge? Like, why do people do that? Because not everybody's into that. Like, most people aren't. Like, why are you running 100 miles at the Leadville? Why the hell are you doing that? And so I remember it was Atreyu. That was his name. Atreyu goes through all the challenges. And do you remember the last challenge?
I don't.
He goes through, I think it's cold. I think it's winter or something. It's white and I think it's cold, and he goes through all these things, and he's the laser, and he's almost been beheaded and lost the horse in the sad swamp. And so it was really almost like that. And he gets to the final one and he goes through whatever he goes through, but it's a mirror. And that's it. It's a giant mirror. And he has to freaking look himself in the eye. Boom, mic drop. That's it.
Huge. Great.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so for me at the end, like sitting there and hearing Sue go off and all of that, and the me that walked onto that show, brushing my teeth with bacon and eating lots of peanut butter, 40 pounds heavier. If somebody would have said that to me and gone off and called me all those things, like we would have fought. Like I would have gotten their face and like some physical would have happened. So the fact, like when she said that, it was just like, I saw myself in the mirror and it was like a sonic boom where I was like, I just felt like I just became a better person. Like right now, like I could literally feel it in my skin and in my psyche. Cause I was like, I'm sorry you feel that way.
That is another parallel. That's another parallel with through hiking. It is a transformative experience.
Yes.
You start out as one person, you come out on the other side as a different person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a totally different person. And I was like, at that point, I didn't know if I was going to win or lose or whatever. But I was like, it didn't matter. Like $1 million is awesome. And like I said, there was no thought or promise or even hope of fame. But for me, it was like, can I do this? And Richard Hatch did not spend one more minute on that island than I did. And I was a better person. And she looked like an ass. So there. But yeah, and after it was like, oh man, people were mad and people are still mad. And it was a big thing. And oh, you should have won. You should have won. And I was like, I didn't get the money. But even still to this day after, people like, I'll be in a restaurant and the waitress will come over and she'll hand me a glass of water and she'll be like, it's from that table over there. And people will, because that's what she said. She said, if I was dying in the desert, she would not give me a glass of water. And people will send me water, or people will be like, so that's cool. That's cool. And especially like with women, but it was very empowering for women and girls. And I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, you really inspired my daughter, or now I was a little girl watching you, and that kind of thing. And so that's the fact that something that I did and how I was inspired people to get outside, to try rafting or try hiking or be more adventurous or just spend more time outdoors or be okay with who they are and being who they are no matter what. Especially, like I said, hearing that about kids and young women, like that's huge. That's money. That's something that money cannot ever buy.
That is a great perspective. That's a winning perspective right there. I really like that. That's your takeaway. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And
Now,
I'll let it be noted that she still apologizes to me. She sent me apology letters and gifts. And like anytime I would see her at an event, she would cry her eyes out. And yeah, so she's sorry.
okay, that's good to hear too.
Yeah.
Now, I could sit here honestly for another 2 hours and talk about Survivor with you, but unfortunately we've got to move on. So
Yes.
I'm going to pin you down right now that you're going to come back on another episode, a later episode, and we're going to talk more Survivor because I have more
absolutely.
questions.
I'd love to.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll come back later and talk about that in another episode. But I want to briefly stop on expedition races and Eco Challenge Fiji.
Yes.
Now, I watched the world's toughest race on Prime, which was about the Eco Challenge that took place in Fiji. I'm not sure if this is the one that you're referring to, but I've had a couple of guests on the podcast who participated in Eco Challenge Fiji, including Brett Gravelin and just recently Justin Smith. And they're both on Team Curl. Great story for their team. Heartbreaking story. Very interesting. But I was just wondering, I saw this on your list of discussion points and wondered if you know them at all.
I don't know them. So I did the first Eco Challenge Fiji. I think it was the last race that Eco Challenge did for a while before they shut it down and
Yes.
didn't do it anymore.
Okay.
But that was just, again, something I had always wanted to do. And before, because Eco Challenge was in existence before Survivor. And that I knew of Eco Challenge and I really wanted to do it. But at that point in my life, like I'm not a triathlete. I never was. I did all the things, but I wasn't in that world. So I didn't know, I didn't know anybody who was a triathlete. I didn't know anybody who did expedition racing. So I want to do that. And I have no idea how do I get to do that? So obviously after doing Survivor and having a friendship with Mark Burnett, that opened door for me to do Eco Challenge. But I started when I was working for the E Channel, I got invited to go and film Eco Challenge New Zealand. So we were making a 1 hour, like behind the scenes, the making of Eco Challenge. So that was really cool. I got to go to New Zealand and film 9 days leading up to the race. So I got to meet the racers. I got to go on the course. I obviously had a lot of time with Mark Burnett, and my job was to film leading up to the race. And then, okay, off they go when they started racing. And so I was at the starting line and the racers went off and I was just like, ugh. And it was so funny because Mark was standing next to me and he knows me and I know him pretty well. And he looked at me and he goes, "You need to stay." And I was like, "Can I stay? Can I stay?" Like I wanted to stay so bad. And he was like, "You're staying." And he like, "Get her a helicopter." It's good to know Mark Burnett. I'm telling you, he got me a helicopter and he was like, "You're on the course." And so I ended up actually working on the course and working with the river crew. And so I was rowing boats for the film crew that was taking people down the river. And man, it was awesome. It was so great. So I was like, I need to do this. So then I ended up putting a team together and racing Fiji. I got to see both sides of it, but it was great. I loved it. It was hard as hell, but we actually got, I think there was 85 teams the year that I did it, and all but 13 teams actually got booted off the course because of weather and monsoons and just wasn't safe. So we had got to a portion where we had to kayak through this river gorge, and we were on course. Like we made all the checkpoints. We weren't lagging, but we had got a bunch of rain, and this gorge had flash flooded, and we actually had to bike to the gorge. But then they were like, yeah, it was a huge safety issue. So they were like, "Sorry, like you guys can't even continue." Like we couldn't even get to the gorge. And so I just remember, I'm sure you've heard from the other athletes. I don't know their particular story, but you train your ass off and you work really hard and you spend a lot of your own money if you're not fully sponsored, which most people aren't. Most people, they're backing it with their own money, and you get there and it's, "Sorry folks, park's closed, beat it." And we were sitting on the edge of this river and they were like, "Yeah, you guys can ride your bikes, but you can't go any further." So we got on our bikes and we rode a little bit, a bunch of us. Like I said, there was 60 some odd teams at that point. So we all rode in solidarity. And then we got there and we were like, "All right, we're done." And we all just sat there. But the Fijian people are the most amazing people ever. I don't know if you haven't heard much about them, but they just
Yeah, that really came out. That really came out in
Oh,
the Amazon Prime series. The
oh my
art.
gosh, they are fantastic. They
Yeah,
just came out and like literally encircle you with just like
yeah.
happiness and love, and it's okay. And I just remember this guy came out and sat and started talking to me, and I was crying. I went off by myself and I was crying down by the river and taking my shoes off, and my feet are bloody and swollen. And he sits down next to me and he invites me to come have kava. And like when you go and have kava, it's typically you give something. And I've got granola bars and like red vines. Like I don't have anything significant to share with these people. And so he invites me to come have kava. And I'm like, all right, give me a minute. And it's okay, but it's all right. And so he's just chatting me up, and where are you from? And I'm from California. And he's telling me like, he's like, why aren't you married? And I'm like, oh, I'm not married. And where's your husband? That's a big thing with young females in other countries. Like, where's your man? And so he's telling me how. I said, where's your wife? Like, why aren't you married? And he says, I just built a house and I think I'm going to hold out. I can have my pick of any women. And I was like, oh, really? Why is that? And he goes, I have a fast toilet, meaning he has a flush toilet. Speaking of toilets, see, I'm bringing it back. That was the segue. So
Full circle.
he had a fast toilet. So he was holding out for women. And then he goes, he asked me if I knew anybody I could bring from California. Since he got a fast toilet. So anyway, he brings me over and we have kava, and I'm laughing about the fast toilet, and they give me kava, and I ended up sharing my red vines with the group, and they thought it was the best thing ever. And yeah, it was awesome. I did not finish the race, but it was lovely. It was beautiful. And it was an awesome experience. And again, pushing to that edge.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And the whole fast toilet, that's what worked for me as well. That's how I got my
right. Is that, see, you can put that's ladies like the fast toilet.
That's right. That's right. Now, Kelly, I want to make sure we spend some time talking about our common connection. You are a Sawyer ambassador.
Yes.
Sawyer is one of my sponsors. They are fantastic. Love their products. Love the people that work for Sawyer. It's been such a positive relationship. They've done so much good in this world. Tell us about this project that you've been involved with just recently about the Marshall Islands and water filter distribution.
Yes. So this is really exciting. So just recently, in the last few weeks, the Marshall Islands has become only the second country in the world to meet the United Nations goal of sustainable clean water for all. Liberia is the first country, and the Marshall Islands is the second. Not even the US is on that list right now. So that's really huge. And that's obviously big for the Marshall Islands, of course, but really big for Sawyer, because Sawyer was hugely involved in this, and they were there to distribute the last filters and really bring that home. And where I come in is in the fall of 2017, my son Rio and I went to the Marshall Islands. It just happened on a whim. We had met some folks who had been on a religious mission in Fiji, and had met some people who had met some people, heard it through the grapevine that the Marshall Islands needed clean water. They were really having trouble with access to clean water, and weren't really on the radar at the time for, oh, they're really desperate for water. And I think myself thought, there's a US military base there. Like, they're fine. They don't need clean water. But one thing led to another, and we ended up buying 200 Sawyer water filters and going. We were like, all right, they need help. Let's go. And it was a really weird time for me in my life. I was leaving Mexico. I had just divorced my son's father and moving back to the US and starting from scratch. I gave up everything and just had my son. And so it really didn't make sense at the time for me to spend money and take my 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old son and go to the Marshall Islands out of nowhere for really didn't know anybody, had no connections, anything. And we just went and we brought the filters, and we met people who introduced us to people who introduced us to people who we met aid organizations, and the Minister of Natural Resources and Disaster Relief and the Red Cross, and ended up going to these islands and meeting different people and just staying up all night and handing out filters and just passing it on and passing it on and passing it on. And which this happens a lot with speaking with Sawyer, and you're going to different parts of the world and giving out filters, is people don't really trust at first. Here I have this water that is making me sick and my kid's sick. And now you're telling me I can put it through this plastic thing and all's well. So that's a hard pill to swallow at first. And having my son with me, I was like, look, here, filter the water. I'm going to give it to my kid and he's going to drink it. And Rio was all about it. He was stoked. That was his show. He was like, I'm going to drink the water. And so having him there, he really bridged a gap of trust and befriended a lot of kids and got the families more comfortable. And yeah, we ended up staying up all night and handing out these filters and met a woman who was trying to help families get cook stoves so they weren't burning fuel and cutting down trees and that type of thing, and showed her the filters and gave her the filters and really made that connection. And she was really excited and yeah, let's do more about these filters. And okay, here you go. Here's the filters. And we left. And 200 filters is a lot, and you're excited to help people. But at the same time, you're like, it just felt like I just went poof with a handful of sand into the wind. Like, you help some, but you can't help everybody. And so we left feeling awesome, but also feeling, oh, there's so much more work to do and hope for the best. And right around the start of COVID, one of the women I met reached out to me and said, hey, we want more information about these filters. Can you connect me with Sawyer? And so I had sent out a group email, hey, so-and-so meet so and connect. And then I didn't really hear anything else about it. Obviously stalled a lot of the efforts and again, just hoped for the best. And then it wasn't until a couple of weeks ago, I got a message from Sawyer on Instagram and they're like, hey, we're in the Marshall Islands and we just had dinner with all these Marshallese people. And they told us the story of how you came with your son and brought all these filters. And you guys were the first ones to bring the filters. And now look what's happened. And the whole country has clean water. And I was, I'm going to cry right now. That's amazing. So that happened. And Rio and I were a small part of that. So I'm really excited about that. And Sawyer's really excited. And obviously the Marshallese are really excited. And it was just really special. They're right there with the Fijians. Like, they were the nicest people and so welcoming and just like getting it together. I reached out to somebody on Facebook, this guy, Daniel Kramer, who had a radio show, who connected. And we got there and it was like boots on the ground. Let's do this. So I'm really excited about that. And again, Sawyer is amazing and they're great company to partner with. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to, they've reached out, hey, let's do more. And I'm like, yeah, let's do more. So we're going to do more. We're going to start ticking them off the list. If Marshall Islands can be done, we're looking at more of Micronesia and Oceania, because since that's happened, other countries have reached out like, hey, here's your template. Like, we can do this.
Yeah. Congratulations, Wiggles. That is a magical story. You were there at the beginning. You were there at the end for the Marshall Islands. Way to bookend it. And I think in your description, I think it is very easy to see that what Sawyer is doing out there is magical. You're taking water that has made people sick and you're putting it through this device and it is now safe. That is magic. And so that is so powerful. I want to congratulate you and Sawyer for all the great work you're doing out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, if you look on one of my last Instagram posts where I have a little video of Rio and I there at the beginning, and you see us doing the filters and you hear him actually at the end and he's like, is that clean? And I said, yeah, that's clean. And he goes, that's magic. So it's really funny you said that, because that's magic. And I'm like, it is magic. It's alchemy. So I'm just so glad that everybody has it now.
Yes. Hey, Wiggles, you know where we are right now?
Are we? Oh, where are we?
Hiking hacks.
All right.
Hiking hacks. It's time for you to share some adventure wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So what do you have for us?
One awesome thing, a food hack. I love food. I love eating. And one of the things I learned in Fiji is if you're hiking somewhere that's really hot and you can use instant rice and whatever kind of spices, flavors you want. I like to throw like a chicken bouillon cube in there, but pre-pack some rice, put it in a Ziploc bag, throw a bouillon cube in there. And then when you need some quick rice, because we love the rice, White Rice Wednesday, right? Everybody's, oh my God, I can't believe you're still eating rice. You put a little water in there and you can put the bag. I like to put it right under my chest because it's nice and warm in there. You can put it in other warm places, but you leave it in there for maybe 5, maybe not even 10 minutes, and you open the bag and you got yourself some nice cooked rice.
Nice. I love that. And we were joking on another episode. There's a company out there. Unfortunately, I forget the name of the company, but they advertised a crotch pot where you
oh my gosh, are you
put that
serious?
food in it's encapsulated. Maybe you get a little extra moisture in there somehow. Maybe, I don't know.
No,
But you put it in there by your crotch and it warms it up. By the time you're done, you're ready to eat. So there you go.
Exactly. Same principle. That's hilarious. The crotch pot. I love that.
All right. So there you have it. We're just about done here. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Wiggles. Want to thank her for joining us this week. Wiggles, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find out about your latest adventures?
Yeah, just check me out at Kelly Wiggles, 1G. Yeah, that's my Instagram. I don't do that. Instagram's the best. I don't do TikTok or any of the other stuff. So I will keep everybody up to date on what's coming up. So I've got some new adventures happening with Sawyer, and I have a really fun project I'm working on with Rio that is a little secret under wraps thing, but that'll be coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. Also working with teaching guide schools in India. Rio and I just did a really amazing trek. We did 3 days hiking into the Himalaya and 3 days rafting down the Ganges. And we'll be heading back at some point and teaching some guide schools, all female guide schools. There are no female river guides in India. So we are going to be changing that very soon.
Wiggles, breaking some more barriers. You go.
Yes.
You go.
Always.
Right. Hey, remember to check out Hiker Trash Radio on social media as well. We are on FaceTube. There I go again. FaceTube and some U-Book and some Insta-Talk and some TikGram. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at hikertrashradio@gmail.com.
You can start FaceTube.
No, unfortunately, we can't always be on the trail. And when we're not, we need to find a way to get our adventure fix. So, Wiggles, I'm going to ask you to share some outdoor adventure media with our listeners to help them get by when they're not on the trail. This could be a book, a movie, a documentary, even maybe a series like Survivor. I don't know. We call this segment Off the Beaten Path. What do you have?
I recently just watched, oh gosh, no, I'm totally blanking. FaceTube is throwing me off.
It doesn't everybody.
Wildlife. That Nat Geo documentary, Kristen Tompkins. Have you seen that yet?
I have not, but I'll check it out.
Yes.
Especially if it's on FaceTube.
If it's on FaceTube,
yeah.
That's where it's at. That was very inspiring. I'm a big Nat Geo fan. Love the Nat Geo.
You have to be. How can you not be?
How can you not be? Yeah. But I read Shantaram a long time ago. I recently reread it going back to India because it was one of my brother's favorite books. So that's a pretty fun adventure book. It's long. It's 900 pages. So if anybody hasn't read that yet, tuck into that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
What have we not asked you?
All right. And before we wrap things up tonight, I've got one more segment called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Us About? What do we miss tonight?
I think we covered everything. Yeah, we covered a fun, exciting project with Rio. That'll be coming out soon. Girl Guide School stuff with Sawyer products, water filters, Sawyer paddles and oars. They're another one of my sponsors. I do a lot of river stuff with them. I do a lot of stuff with, I don't know, cool stuff. Can we talk about like cool causes and organizations?
Yes, we're running out of time, but you could mention them, please.
Yes, Sawyer Paddles and Oars. They do a lot of cool stuff. Me Water Foundation, check them out. They do a lot of really cool stuff. And Friends of the River does a lot of really cool stuff. And American Whitewater. Support all of that. Rios to Rivers is doing something really awesome. The dams are coming down off the Klamath River, and groups of Indigenous young adults are going to be the first ones to paddle the full length of the Klamath once the dams come down. So that's exciting. That's awesome.
Nice. Now, we did not get a chance to talk tonight about your humanitarian efforts in other areas besides the Marshall Islands. And so when we come back on that second episode that you promised to do, I want to spend more time talking about all the other great stuff you're doing out there, because there is some big impact that you're having.
Thank you. I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Okay. All right. Hey, before we wrap things up, just one more segment. Nope. Oh, I just blew that one. Just blew that one. Okay. You're right. I got to edit that one out. All right. We are finished. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Kelly. We want to wish you the very best on your future adventures. Glad that you promised to come back and talk about some of your other adventures and efforts. As we close up today, any shout outs to friends and family?
Oh gosh, all the friends, all the family, everybody. All my river people, all my mountain people, everybody, just all of you, all of them.
Okay.
All the Survivor fans. I shout out to the Survivor fans. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for your support. I didn't watch it, but apparently I did well, and I guess I came across well because I've just had the nicest people. So definitely shout out to the Survivor fans.
You didn't have to watch it. You lived it.
I did. I lived it.
All right. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if Sue Hawk has just spent the last 15 minutes screaming at you at tribal council. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.